Whoop. Testing 1, 2, 3.
What cheese would you like?
Cheddar.
Cheddar?
Yeah.
Automation investment, scam. Shopify automation investment, scam. Airbnb automation investment, scam. But you
What's up, YouTube? Listen, family, another week is in the books. As I often say, Monday sets the tone, but Friday sets the standard. I want to say major salute to another week, another opportunity, but more importantly, another chance for you guys to put your skills to the test. If you made money this week, please let me know down in the comments below. But if you learned any lessons, whether about yourself, about your trading, I want to hear about those too, guys. Listen, in today's video, I'm going to break down some things to be on the lookout for as it relates to Palantir. But before we do that, please make sure to like, subscribe, help this video get at least 1,000 likes. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. Guys, again, another week is in the books. And all I can say is job well done, okay? Look at this. Kicking it off with the SPY. Really quickly, just to recap the week it was. They closed the day up 0.5%. $2.86 to be exact, sitting at 561. But look, we had a high of 562.70, and then at 140 we hit 562.97 in terms of the closing price. Okay, so they might have went to 563, but it closed at 562.97. You guys need to know that's what these prices mean. Not how high it went, but where it closed at. Okay, but with that being said, I want to say major salute because we talked about some of these levels in Discord. Okay, if you're not in the Discord, guys, please do me a favor. Please get in there. The link for that is in the description below. Okay, but we talked about this. Look at this. Speaking of this, on the week, up 2.35% or $12.87. Look at some of these volatile moves, man. 238 came back down here to 241, but from 241, that was a launching pad for us to go to 241 all the way to 263. And okay, and so again, I want you guys to see these things. That's a $20 move. These are life-changing moves. That's why I'm showing you this, guys, because again, we talk about the SPY every single day around here because it's a way for you guys to learn how to master the skill of trading, okay? With that being said, check it out, guys. I also want to touch on not only what the CEO said. I'm going to show you a video of him in just a second, okay? But check this out, Palantir. Remember, anybody that's been with us since $8.69, or if you are new to the same game and the money team and what we do around here, you might be in around 12 or 16 or at the lowest $20. But from $20, I told you guys this would go to $30. Well, look at here. Let me know, guys. Do you hold Palantir shares? If so, how many shares do you got? And what's your average cost? But for everybody else that do like me, who owns shares of this as well as trades this is beautiful, sitting way up here at $35, okay? Now listen to this, guys. It already tried to get rejected from that $36 level, so I want you to make a note of that. We got beef at 36. We got beef at 36. Matter of fact, we got a battle at 36, but we got support around the low 35 area, okay? And so look, guys, on the week, look at this. 18%, okay, up $5.56. I just want to, again, guys, when you get in these type of plays, especially at the right levels, these things can change your life. You're never going to get 18% on your money sitting in a bank. You are never going to get 18% on your money in a CD. All these things are good vehicles that you want to have on your financial journey, but you need to know the power of the stock market. But again, it's not just the power of the stock market, but mastering your entries, mastering your exits, mastering where to properly get in at so you can maximize your dollar. Okay, this is how you expedite the process of getting off the corporate plantation. But listen to this, guys. Palantir CEO, he was talking that talk. I told you, I like just strong men. I like strong leaders. I like alpha males because I'm one myself, okay? And so again, as a man's man, we gravitate towards that. And for Alex Karp, I like how he talked. I like how he talks in his leadership role. And he said that they going to 10X from here. But don't take it from me. Take it from the horse's mouth. Let's go ahead and dive into it.
We are very focused on product innovation. Part of what AI does is allows you to innovate quicker. And if you have distribution, distribute that innovation quicker. So our main goal is to accelerate product development in all areas: military, manufacturing, government, AI-backed targeting, AI-backed ways of running your business. And then we'll see where we are in a year. My firm belief is Palantir will be 10 times bigger in the future. You know, you've had all these critiques of Palantir. We're the Frankenstein monster. It can't be a product. It's never going to be free cash flow positive. It's never going to be GAAP profitable. It could never get on the S&P. It's clearly very valuable, but it can't be 10 times more valuable. And, you know, our job is to show and not tell, and we are going to show that we can be 10 times bigger than we are now.
Okay, guys, you heard it here first, man. That was the CEO of Palantir. And long story short, man, I just want you guys to understand when you are investing, you need to also invest in a company with good leadership, who has vision, who has tact, who has business savvy, who has an acumen that can take the company to where it needs to go. Okay, and so that's one thing you want to look for when you're doing your fundamental analysis, if you're going to invest your hard-earned money into some of these stocks, okay? But with that being said, guys, listen, great job this week, but don't rest on your laurels. Reflect, rejuvenate, refocus, because guess what? Around here, we're running it back next week. I look forward to seeing all you guys Monday morning in the Discord, but everybody else consider joining the Money Team this week. And if you rocking out with us, make sure you let me know by Sunday night. Send me a screenshot. Send me an email that you actually use so that I got your information. Other than that, man, be blessed this week. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Your future is at your fingertips. Take advantage of the flexibility and diversity of futures trading with NinjaTrader, the #1 rated futures broker. Start trading futures today.
Hey, this is what I do almost every weekend, shopping real estate. You're probably not going to start with that deal right there or the one that I'm standing inside of right now, Sunday morning, but you need to start somewhere, okay? In about a week, or less than a week actually, I'm going to be doing a live training for free, show you how to get started in the real estate game. I started exactly the way I'm starting right now, which is walking properties, looking at deals, hanging with my wife right there, underwriting deals, checking out locations. It's so simple to do this. You don't need money. You don't need credit. You just need to start. And I want to show you how to start. It's completely free training. Take about 120 minutes of your time, and I'm going to put you in the game. I guarantee you. Click the link below. Register. This will be sold out like everything else I do. I'd love to have you be there to start your real estate career. Okay? Or continue with your real estate career. I'll show you some tricks you've never seen before. How to buy with no money down, how to get a loan below market, and how to ensure that your first deal makes you at least $1 million. That should be your goal. Your first deal should make you a millionaire. Imagine that, okay? Spend 120 minutes with me, and I'll show you how to put one deal on the books, your first deal, or your second deal, or your next deal. Oh, man, this neighborhood is fantastic, isn't it? I mean, look at this. All I'm doing is hanging with my wife, shopping real estate, and I'll know when I see a deal, a certain number of units, certain amount of rent, certain amount of upside, how to get the loan done. Like, I simplified this game so easily. I started with $3,000. My first $3,000 turned into $6,000 at 100% return. I was like, oh, my.
At the stop sign, turn right onto Gillespie Street.
You're telling me where to go right now. My first $3,000, I made 100% return in under a year, and I was like, I'm on my way. It wasn't a lot of money, but I knew I was on to something, okay? My second deal, no money down. Check this out, no money down. See, look at this little house right here. Somebody's going to make a fortune on that little house right there.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto Cedar Springs Road.
My second deal, I put no money down. I made $32,000. My third deal, I put $300,000 down and made $5.2 million. But check this out. And I'll be sharing this with you, how I took one deal. I owned it for 3 years. I made $144 million non-taxable, $144 million. And I paid no taxes. I'll show you how to do all that. Click the link below. It's completely free. No strings attached. You don't have to do anything. Just show up. I'll do the rest.
second. I'm going. Why did it die?
Angie got this for you. She saved it.
Hold on 1 second.
This AI trade finder will handpick you options trades every morning on autopilot. Hi, my name's Charlie Moon, and I got a comment like this. My guy said, I made $2,500 since joining KGU since the 6th of September, and I wanted to give you a salute, big dog. His name is Tio, so in Spanish, to my understanding, that's how you say uncle. So shout out to Unc family. If you made some money with me, let me know in the chat and hit the like button, hit subscribe. Let's talk about it. I had recently got into the live stream, like I said, and I had showed everybody how to make about $600 in less than 5 minutes. Every day ain't gonna be like that, but when you get the opportunity, you gotta know when to strike. Back in the day when I was doing YouTube, maybe even in 2022, even 2021, I was saying I'm kind of like a shark. When I see a price I like, I strike. In this case, I let the back fin pop out of the water and I see it, bam, I'm up on it. So I say all of that to say you can make a lot of money in this market if you know what you're doing. And I want to be able to teach you how to do that. So shout out to everybody who made that money with me. And again, let me know how much money you made with me, or if you made money with me, or if you look forward to making money with me going forward, family. Because this September month, we had to analyze it. We had to see the weaknesses in it. And then we said, this is how we're going to make money going on the way down. This is how we're going to make money on the way up. So we have capitalized, put it in a box, and straight up dominated this. We understand all of the ins and outs of how this month is moving, and that's why we've been able to kill it, especially right now. I want to give another shout out to another member who posted a comment saying, Keenan, that you the GOAT. I just made $320 in that same little 5 minutes that I was talking about, family. So I want to see you over on KGU, and I want to give a salute and pour into the family. And I got a comment like this. I must say, brother, I learned a lot from you. He said, man, I feel like my life is changing for the better. I love to hear that. And then this one, to put the icing on the cake, he said, I thank God every day for putting you in my life and in the life of many others. So I appreciate you. And then my dog, Damien, he said this, I have made over $1,000 in a trading day because of the lessons I've learned from you. You're a blessing. And I want to say you're a blessing. Remember, I say this, I'm like a coach. All I could do is write up the play, but you got to run the ball. So I can never take credit for any of your accomplishments. I'm just honestly humble and appreciative that you include me as being a part of it. And I mean that to everybody, family, because again, you tap in with me, I'm going to take you to the promised land, family. I'm telling you that right now. The long-term plays, the long-term investments, we're going to kill it in that. The short-term ones, we're going to kill it in that. And when we lose, we only lose a little bit. So then our wins could be unlimited. We always keep our wins way bigger than our losses around here. And we keep it specific. I want to show you how specific for those of you who are not up on trading yet, but you're interested in getting into trading. Look at this. I bought something, and this is what I'm talking about in that little 5-minute time frame from the live stream, and it cost 96 cents. I put like $1,000 in it, and it had ran up to like 150, $1.50, for example. I made that $600 on that. Boom. It's kind of like getting into a penny stock where you buy it low at 90 cents. You put XYZ, however much amount in it, and then it runs up 100%, 200%, whatever it's going to do. You raise your stop loss and profit. And I walk everybody through step by step. Nobody doing it like how we do it, where I show you the exact entry price. I'm telling you, we over here in such a way, and this ain't to knock nobody else, because there's a lot of greats over here who are trading, who are doing their own thing. But the way that we do it is very unique and easy to follow. So I want to say congrats to everybody killing it with us. But I had looked back because I had got out of this in profit up like $600 or so. And I looked back on it, and that 96 cent one towards the end of the day, because the market just kept pumping up, it went to $3. So imagine that you got in with 1,000, you would have basically got out at about $3,000 just in one single day. But we got to remember, when you are shooting for days to be like this every single day, it ain't always going to happen, but you got to be in it to win it, family. You got to know how to have risk management. If you ain't already up on it, join KGU so you could tap in. And once the weekend is over, because it's about to be the weekend, you'll be all locked and loaded to be with us on the plays next week so we could knock it out the park. You got the time to join right now, and then you'll be locked and loaded, ready to go, even by tomorrow, to be honest. I'm going to make a video today, meaning this one, on NVIDIA, and I want to talk about how we've been talking about this one for a long time. We've been loading up, and right now NVIDIA is pumping up again, but we was buying it when it was 107. We was buying it when it was in the 90s, and we can see it now, like I said, even right here at 92. People were saying, oh, man, it's over for NVIDIA. They already went to 140. They coming back down. They smoked. So this is what we're going to talk about today, but I want to give a shout out to the buy alerts. Not only do I teach you, I give you the buy alerts, where I said purchase NVIDIA at 107. And the reason I want to give a shout out to this is because I had got a comment from somebody who was like, because it had went at 107, then it had went to like 102. Oh, Keenan, you told me 107 was where you would buy it. I didn't like that price. This is wrong. Da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, if I like it at 107, then I love it at 102. I really love it at 92. And now we look at NVIDIA and it's pumped all the way up to like 119 in less than 2 weeks. Family, this is how you trade. You got to steadfast. You got to stay to your disciplines, and then you'll knock it out the park. Now, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor. This is the Moomoo Investing app. And when you join with my link, Keenan Grace specifically, you're going to get up to not 15, but 30 free stocks. Now, if you join with somebody else's link or you don't use a link, you're not going to be able to get this opportunity for the 30 free stocks. But on mine, you just use that link. I'm going to put it right in the top of the description. Then you're going to have access to that. And then this is a huge benefit. The 8.1% APY on your uninvested cash. Family, this is something that I absolutely love to see. The daily just interest accruing on my money. Why am I saying that? Because 8.1% for the intro rate, I ain't seen nobody beat it yet. I love to see that, family. And again, up to 30 free stocks. Just join Moomoo right here, and I'm going to show you some of the tools right now that I use over there that help me to dominate using Moomoo. And again, this promotion is for September. Now, notice September is ending very soon. So then a deal like this is likely to change and probably go back to 20 free stocks or probably go back to 15 free stocks, but you can get the 30 right now. And while the interest rates is still high because of the Fed and everything like that, they got that 8.1. So you're going to lock that in, family. The link is in the top of the description. You're going to have tools like this. I was looking at NVIDIA because I noticed when I look at the hottest stocks, I ain't got to look far. I just use this Moomoo tool, and it's called the U.S. Heat Ranking. And I can see that NVIDIA is one of the most heavily traded stocks today, followed by Tesla, Palantir, followed by MU, followed by Apple. So I could always stay on point, and I don't even got to try hard. Just open it up, and boom, I can see what's the hottest stocks right now. So if I want to play it up, play it down, I know what to look for. And then the most up-to-date price targets. I'm talking about September 11th, the most recent price target on NVIDIA from Goldman Sachs saying it's going to 135. We got Citi saying it's going to 150. We got DBS saying it's a buy. We got the Bank of America saying it's going to 165. Family, the most up-to-date price targets. And again, take them with a grain of salt. They can't all tell the future now, but they can tell us that they're betting with NVIDIA and not against it, which tells us when we see it under 100, that's when we really want to load up on this. So I want to say another tool that I want you to use, it says company evaluation. And you can see that NVIDIA has spiked up out of this range. What is this range? It's called the reasonable range of its valuation. Is it overvalued? So we could see that it was overvalued. It popped out of the reasonable range, and then it popped right back into right where it is right now, where it's in a more reasonable range, which is highlighted in blue just for you. You can use that Moomoo link. It's in the top of the description. I will see you over there. I'm also going to pin it to the top of the comments too, family. So make sure you tap in and go in and put at least $100 on there and use that $100 and watch it just grow interest, even if you didn't invest it immediately, because that 8.1% intro rate. Can't wait to see you over there, family. Now, let's talk about what's going on with NVIDIA. You can see that they're at 119. So guess what? That 107 that I picked it up at, that was a really good buy. And it only took, a week, 2 weeks or so for that to be something to pay off. Even if it took a month or 2 months, family, it's the stock market. We love to be in profit. If you love to be in profit, you know what time it is too. Who don't like having more money? What's pumping them up? NVIDIA stock jumps as CEO Jensen, a.k.a. the founder and CEO of the company, he looks to address key investor concerns. What was everybody worried about with NVIDIA? That the demand was down. I often use the example of the lemonade stand. And imagine that you have a daughter. She's starting a lemonade stand. She needs sugar. She needs lemons. She needs the whatever tool to open the lemons up and turn it into juice and containers and everything like that. Okay, cool. You want her to be successful. Let's say that you look at the line of people who want lemonade and you like, daughter, we dead in the middle of winter. Ain't nobody gonna pull up to the lemonade stand. There's no demand for lemonade right now. So then you tell her, like, yo, how about we work this lemonade stand in the summer? How about we take this operation over near the beach, right? In the summer, people might load up on lemonade over there. And then you look and the line is wrapped around the beach. You like, yo, okay, we on point. The demand is there. With NVIDIA, people was worried that it was a winter for the computer chips. They were worried that there was no demand. There was no line for it. And Jensen, the CEO and founder, he said, oh, no. Y'all took that earnings call that we did a little wrong. We said that we were fixing up this Blackwell chip that we have, computer chip,
But guess what? We look to scale the computer chip in the high production in the fourth quarter of this year. So he's saying that they already got the plan set out. They just got to just let it go. And he said that the demand is insane. He said, guess what? We sitting in the middle of the beach with a lemonade stand. It ain't the winter. And he's the CEO saying this. This doesn't mean that you got to take his word as the gospel, but he's been on point when he's been talking about AI demand and artificial intelligence demand this whole time. Just people weren't listening, but those who were made a whole lot of money. So make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel right here so that we can keep making money with NVIDIA and keep up on what's going on. So if they ever do tell us, yeah, the demand is coming down, then we know to do this. Raise our stop losses in profit, which you rocking with me, you should already have that going. My average on NVIDIA right now is like, I want to say $56. Now, I bought it when it was $500, and then they split the stock 10 times. So now it looked like I bought it when it was $50, and then we bought it at 90, we bought it at 107. So then my average is like 50, like high 50s now. My stop loss is on like 75, aka if it comes down, oh, Keenan, you told me you was making money on NVIDIA when it was 120. Yeah, I am. It came down to 90. You making money? Yeah, I am. Why? Because my stop loss is going to kick me out at 75 if this thing ever did come down. However, it ain't looking like it's coming down to that. So then I secured the bag, and I want you to do the same. Now, this is the Trident on NVIDIA currently. So we are at the very bottom of the buy zone right now. I really like this in the 90s. If I see NVIDIA in the 90s, I want to basically load up, go to my savings account, load up on NVIDIA and buy some there. That don't mean that you got to do it. You got to have a plan. However, with what I'm looking at this week, I'll be willing to put some money in, not too crazy, at about 118. That would be preferable. The max I'm willing to pay for a long-term hold, though, is 124, but I'm really looking for that 118. And if it hit 117 and crash under that, I got my stop loss right there, so that I would get kicked out of anything that I bought this week. But I would not buy it between 125 and 135 at all. I would leave it alone and see if we're going to run past that for a breakout or under that 117, which I would get kicked out and then start loading up on it closer to the $100 range, family. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. If you appreciate this, hit the like and subscribe. And again, go support the channel. Sign up for KGU. I see you over there. It's going to be the best $15.99 you ever spent. I'm telling you that right now. I honestly, in my heart, believe it. And anybody in KGU could tell you the same. And then go and get Moomoo so you can get access to the tools and get that money. That 8.1% interest plus those 30 free stocks, family. I see you over there. And you don't got to get rid of some other account that you're on. Just add this one to your toolbox so that you could kill it and dominate the game in September or any other month. I see you in the next one. Take care.
Hey, Bowtie Nation, Joseph Hogue here, and we've been talking penny stocks a lot lately. Those fast-growing small-cap companies with the potential to double your money or more. Stocks like Ryerson Holdings, ticker RYI, up 386% since recommending it 4 years ago. Or Vital Farms, up 249% in just 2 years. And while share price doesn't really make something a penny stock or not, something I'll explain later, there's just something about stocks under $5 each, about being able to get thousands of shares and build a real stake in a company that could become the next NVIDIA, Google, or Apple, selling for hundreds of dollars each. Let's get started on our list of penny stocks under $5 with Paysign Inc., ticker PAYS. But stick around, and I'll show you the critical filters to picking these stocks and how to invest. Paysign is a prepaid card and payment processing service for customer incentives, employee rewards, and rebates within the healthcare, hospitality, and retail industries. The company provides an end-to-end and customized solution for enterprise clients, an addressable market it estimates as large as $728 billion in the U.S. alone. Revenue growth has accelerated over the past year to a 30% pace, with pharmacy patient affordability programs really taking off. But even that at $50 million in sales is a fraction of that potential $700 billion market. Sales are expected 20% higher for the full year and 12% next to $64 million, which puts the stock at a fairly cheap 4x price to sales valuation. And best of all, this one is already EBITDA and net income positive, rare profitability among penny stocks. We're just getting started on our list of penny stocks, but I also want to personally invite you to get the Weekly Bowtie, our free weekly newsletter with all the stock market news, strategies, and trends you need to see. Each week before the market opens, I'll show you what I'm watching and the stocks that could highlight the week. It's all totally free, just something I like to do for all you out there in the community. So look for that sign up link below. SelectQuote, ticker SLQT, isn't the kind of new company you think about with penny stocks, but is seeing new growth. The direct-to-consumer insurance comparison model distributes 50 carriers for auto, home, senior Medicare, and life insurance. The company has been refining its process from lead generation through underwriting for more than 30 years. And while it hasn't stated anything publicly, I wonder if AI improvements aren't far off, with over 1 billion data points collected, driving that model improvements and efficiency. Senior Medicare insurance is just under 60% of revenue, but the healthcare segment is booming with 260% growth over the last year. This year's revenue growth is expected 27% higher, with earnings up 41%, which means this one is not only boosting that sales number, but also becoming more efficient on its costs. That sales growth may slow a little to 18% next year, but the company could reach net income profitability. I highlighted Perfect Corporation, ticker PERF, recently in an AI penny stocks video, and yeah, I'm still not wild about the name. And naming your AI beauty company Perfect just seems a little on the nose to me, but pun intended, what it's doing here is perfectly matches with the influencer era of the industry. The company serves the enterprise market with a software as a service model, helping a business's customers try on products before they buy. Perfect also serves the consumer market directly with its mobile apps and generative AI features for makeup, hair, nails, and fashion. The model supports 90,000 skin tones and 10 plus makeup textures, taking nearly 4,000 point references on a person's face. Now, folks, I don't have much of a need for it because of my ruggedly handsome good looks, but beauty and makeup has become an influencer-driven social industry, and the model here has so many other use cases. With users to the mobile app growing 30% to 900,000 over the last year, Perfect reported 18% year-over-year revenue growth in the first quarter to $14 million, $54 million for the last year, and has guided to 15% sales growth this year to $61 million. That might not be the fastest on the list for sales growth, but I think this app is being underutilized in the enterprise space, enabling makeup brands to show customers how they'll look using these AI features. I'll show you how to pick your penny stocks and reveal 4 more penny stocks to buy next. But first, you need to know how to invest in these. It's because, nation, penny stocks can make you rich, but if you're like most investors, you're doing it completely wrong. It's because most investors buy and sell their penny stocks like their daily mocha coca frappuccino, buying and selling for that quick profit. And this kind of short-term investment can make you money. We've done really well with penny stocks recommended over the last few years, with an average 80% return, even after some completely crashed. So yes, you can make money trading penny stocks, but it won't make you rich. Why? Because it's a 1 step forward and 2 steps back mentality. You take those penny stock profits too early when a stock hits 40 or 50% return. Investors get excited and just want to book that money, but they hold on to their losers. Nation, there are going to be losers. No investor is going to have a perfect track record, and there is going to be penny stocks that are going to dump 40, 50% and more. What happens is you make money. Your portfolio takes that 1 step forward on those winners, but the losers drive you back 2 steps. You might make some money when one of your stocks jumps, but you're limited because that trading mentality caps your profits at 40% in a good stock, and you never really see what your penny stocks can do. Instead here, I want you to think of penny stock investing like a venture capital investor. Those of you in the nation are going to recognize the analogy, and maybe I draw from that world of startup investing too much because that's where I come from, but that world of pre-IPO investing, where you can make 4,000% returns like Peter Thiel did as one of the first outside investors in Facebook. As a venture capital analyst, I advised millionaire investors in those startup companies they would hold for 3 or 5 or even as long as 10 years. Investing in these small micro-cap companies on the idea that just a few could become billion-dollar leaders someday. The idea here isn't that every investment is a 10x return. In fact, a study of these kinds of pre-IPO investments by Willamette University found that more than half lose money. That's the bar on the far left here. About 55% of the investments produce a return of less than the initial investment. But then here, look at these bars on the right, those exit multiples of 5, 10, even 30 times your investment. It's this 15%, maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 investments that produce that majority of returns in a venture capital portfolio. And circled here, you see that overall portfolio return that even with all those dud investments, all it takes are a few big winners to get that 2.6-fold return, 160% return on your money. It is this kind of return, the kind you only get by giving all your penny stocks time to grow, that will make you rich over a period of 5 or 10 years. So instead of jumping in and out of your penny stocks, the best strategy here is going to be building a portfolio of maybe 10 or 15 great companies over a few years and then holding them, giving them 3 to 5 years to grow into that 30 times return instead of selling out after a quick 50% gain. In fact, maybe you only add 3 or 5 new penny stocks to your portfolio each year, just being super selective in terms of which you buy, so you're only putting money in the very best. Up next, Lantronix, ticker LTRX, reached cash flow profitability last year and is a strong player in the IoT theme driven by AI. The company provides solutions in video surveillance, infotainment, and intelligent substations, operating in 3 core areas of software as a service, value added, and hardware to industrial users. It could be expandable into other customer verticals. It's one of the riskier penny stocks on the list, but management is forecasting at least 18% revenue growth this year, along with a 50% bump in earnings per share. Taking some of that risk off is the fact that it did reach cash flow profitability on an operational basis last year and blew past it over the last 12 months, generating nearly $20 million in free cash flow. With continued growth, it should dig out of this recent investor disappointment and take the stock price higher. The smallest penny stock on our list, $30 million Gorilla Technology Group, ticker GRRR, an infrastructure and network defense company built on an AI-based platform for video and data analytics. The company's solutions can be deployed across public and private sectors. For example, data analytics within buildings for secure and efficient use, for police with AI-powered intelligence to improve reaction times and for real-time monitoring, and in healthcare for infrastructure and security. Now, Gorilla is still unprofitable at the net income level, but is expected to grow sales at a 27% rate over this year to $100 million. EBITDA of $18 million on a trailing revenue of $64 million is a very solid 28% profitability margin, giving a very high Rule of 40 score for that growth and profitability. The company booked its largest order in history last year, and there are lots of use cases for this platform. As a very small company, there's still quite a bit of risk here, but the upside potential could be the best on the list. I am a little worried about the cash flow situation here, with just $5.3 million in cash to cover the company's negative cash flow in operations, so I would limit any investment in this one to a small amount. We've still got 2 of the fastest growing penny stocks to highlight, but all you out there in the nation have heard me say share price really means nothing for a penny stock. The example I always like to use is shares of Rolls-Royce under $1 each, but the 120-year-old company, already valued at $89 billion, is hardly the kind of growth company we're looking for here. On the other hand, $25 per share Alico may not seem like a penny stock, but at a market cap of just $196 million, it has a lot of room to grow and is increasing revenue by more than 50% a year. So low share price doesn't necessarily mean a stock is a penny stock or a good investment, but there is one factor in these low price stocks, those stocks under $5 each, that could help them produce higher returns. That's because at less than $5 each, these shares can be bought by the hundreds, even thousands, by regular investors. Instead of having to save up over $200 for a single share of Apple, you can start investing immediately and building that position. That means a larger investor base for these penny stocks, increasing the liquidity and volume, all factors that can help drive a stock's popularity. And of course, popularity and more investors doesn't guarantee returns for a stock, but doesn't hurt either. Opal Fuels, ticker OPAL, is the largest company on the list at $711 million market cap, a vertically integrated biomethane energy company. Opal captures biomethane from landfills, livestock, and organic waste, converts it into renewable natural gas, and then sells it as a fuel or to generate electricity to sell back into the grid. In business for over 20 years, the increasing attention to renewables and fuels could mean the right place at the right time for Opal. Capacity has steadily increased over the last 3 years and is expected higher by 20% this year. And that is expected to turn into 30% plus revenue growth this year and next, and to drive a boom in earnings to nearly $1 per share. Over the last year, the company booked nearly $27 million in EBITDA on $278 million in sales for a 10% margin. Combine that with the 32% average revenue growth, and you've got a penny stock with a great balance between growth and profits. This next penny stock under $5 has the highest growth of the group and could be about to run higher, but more than just that price per share. Whenever you're looking for penny stocks, you need to know how to find those trading for the best valuations. Check out this video next, and I'll show you the process for filtering penny stocks, along with 5 that are too cheap to ignore. The Real Brokerage, ticker REAX, comes in at just under $5 a share as I'm recording this, but maybe not for long, with the strongest revenue growth on the list. Real Brokerage is a $934 million real estate platform for agents that could see some of its best years as the industry transforms after this year's historic court case in real estate commissions. The platform streamlines the experience for buyers with a mobile solution and creates more revenue opportunities for agents, something that could be very important if agents aren't able to charge that fixed commission anymore. You see, after the Supreme Court ruled that real estate agents couldn't demand that flat commission, the entire agency model has been turned on its head and is watching for what comes next. It could give platforms like this a competitive advantage in its ability to offer more services at a lower cost. Sales are expected higher by 47% this year and 27% next, the kind of fast growth we want to see in a penny stock. And while earnings are still negative, the company is moving closer to net profits. Real Brokerage is already up to nearly $800 million in sales and over 16,000 agents using the platform in just the last 2 years. There is no long-term debt and free cash flow is positive with the shares trading at a great valuation. Get the weekly bow tie free with the link in the description and see the stock market news and stocks I'm watching every week. Or click on the video to the right for the 5 cheapest penny stocks in the market, one trading for less than $1 per share. Don't forget to join the Let's Talk Money community by tapping that subscribe button and clicking the bell notification. I have never done a list this big. 20 monthly dividend stocks, all ranked to help you find the best dividend stocks to buy and put cash in your pocket every single month. I'll be ranking these stocks on dividend yield, dividend consistency and growth, and then total return on investment. I'm going to show you how I ranked these stocks, but let's get on to our first monthly payer with SL Green Realty Corporation. That's ticker SLG. You see it has a dividend yield of 8% here on any of these stocks. You can go to the profile tab, see what kind of stock it is. It is a REIT, a real estate investment trust office space. It holds those office space mostly in Manhattan. We can look here on the historical data tab for each stock, see its dividend payments. I've adjusted these for the time period of 5 years, show dividends only, and then click apply. And you can see the dividend history here if you scroll down. For SL Green, it has been very bad, all the way down from 86 cents a share of dividends back there in 2018, all the way down to 27 cents a share just recently for this monthly dividend stock. I'll be grading each of these factors on an A through F basis. You can see this dividend yield here for SL Green. Just 8.2% gives it a C rating. So you can imagine how high some of these dividend yields go if 8% is a C grade here. Just 3 dividend cuts over the last 5 years isn't bad, but isn't great either. Cutting the dividend 3 times there in the past 5 years gives it a grade of C. That dividend has slumped 20% annualized over the last 5 years. I'm going to show you how I found all of these here in a little bit. But the dividend has been cut an average at 20% each year over the last 5 years. That is a grade rating of F, very important for our rankings here. And then total return, if you had invested in this stock 5 years ago, you would have lost about 9.3% a year over the last 5 years. That is why it's a return graded F, and that is why it is the worst performing stock of our 20 monthly dividend stocks. Now, SLG has not only suffered from just that overall real estate sell-off on higher interest rates. Okay, so interest rates have increased the fastest pace in more than 40 years over the last year. That has hit real estate valuations as well as the operational profitability for a lot of real estate firms and brought all of real estate down 25% last year. But SL Green is also focused on that office property in just one area, Manhattan. That is really seen the worst of the post-pandemic transition. Maybe next to San Francisco, there will be a point, of course, where we see fire sale prices on this office space, and the stock could be a good investment, but it's just still hard to see when that time will come. So I would stick with some of these other real estate stocks on our list, other property types, and definitely a more diverse regional footprint than just Manhattan. Next up here, Permian Basin Royalty Trust, ticker PBT. You can see it has a dividend here of 3.96%. It's going to be one of the lower ones on our list. Here in the dividends historical information, we can scroll down here to see it was offering a 5.5% dividend back there 5 years ago in 2018. And has regularly increased and cut its dividends. This is typical of royalty trusts, where their dividend, their cash flow depends completely on oil prices, how much they're collecting from those trust assets. So it has cut the dividend. It is down to about 2.5 cents per share, but it was up as high as 4.4 cents per share here just in May of 2023. So these royalty trusts, not quite the consistency in dividend. It's going to be important if you want that consistency in dividend, but it is going to be much more volatile than a lot of these other monthly dividend stocks. We see in our dividend ranking here that dividend yield of 3.8%, 3.9% gives it a grade of D. 23 dividend cuts over the last 5 years. Again, a lot of dividend increases as well. That dividend is going to be extremely volatile, but the consistency grade is going to be an F here. With so many cuts, so many increases, you are just not going to see a consistent dividend per share amount from this stock. That dividend growth as of now has fallen 14.6% annualized over the last 5 years. So again, each year about 15% gets wiped out there. That's a growth rate of the total return. You actually would have made a lot of money on this stock though. So this is something that you have to consider, something I'll talk about in a minute, what the importance is for you as an investor of that dividend consistency, even if you're making a very high total return. Total return over the last 5 years for Permian Basin royalty, obviously benefiting from those high oil prices. 30% a year, that is a return grade of A for this stock. So obviously PBT has benefited from that post-pandemic rebound in oil prices, getting a lot of money for those trust assets each month and distributing that to investors, as well as an increase in share price. The assets are older than most other royalty trusts. So you might want to look at some other royalty trusts. PBT is going to see its cash flows declining because of that age of these trust assets, and the cash flow is going to be declining over a period. Our first mortgage REIT here, Orchid Island Capital. You can see here a dividend yield of 20%, very high dividend yield. But again, if we look at the dividend information, we are going to see a dividend that has been cut consistently, down from 40 cents a share back in 2018, has been cut to 16 cents per share dividend just here in August of 2023. So that high, almost 21% dividend yield does give it an A rating for the yield. If it can hold on to that, that would be great. But 4 dividend cuts over the last 5 years gives it a C rating. That's a negative 16.7% annualized decline in its dividends. So comparing that dividend 5 years ago against the current dividend, it has declined 16% annualized each year. That is an F rating. That is why a lot of these first companies are ranking so poorly in our list among 20 monthly dividend stocks, because they have just fallen so much in that dividend amount. Total return here, if you had invested in Orchid Island Capital 5 years ago, you'd have lost 8.7% a year over those 5 years. So definitely one you want to watch out for, an F rating in this stock. Now, a big part of this Orchid Island Capital has suffered, along with a lot of the other M REITs in this list, this mortgage REITs, as that mortgage market just gets turned upside down again, the fastest interest rate increase in over 40 years. That said, there are other M REITs like AG&C that have been more consistent with their dividends. They're better up on this list. I'm going to highlight that in a little bit. Haven't seen their stock prices fall quite as badly. So you got to kind of separate these mortgage REITs out. Orchid Island Capital has suffered from the M REIT, from the mortgage disaster, but also some management problems there that is causing it to perform so poorly against even other M REITs. You know I love dividend stocks, and we'll get right back to our list. But if you want to see the stocks I'm buying for the next 30 years, my forever stocks, look for the link I'll leave in the description below. It's a free report I created with the Motley Fool, my forever stocks, the stocks I'm buying for 10x returns. Click through that link. You're going to see that first stock immediately. Then you're going to get the next 4 by email. The report is totally free and some of my favorite stocks, so check that out. Our next stock, another mortgage REIT here, Armor Residential REIT, ticker ARR. Now it says this stock has a dividend yield of 98%. That is just a problem with the share split coming up. It's going to split 1 for 5 effective August 2nd. It recently announced that cash dividend of 40 cents a month. So what Yahoo Finance is doing is taking that 40 cents times 12 for that annual dividend amount and then dividing by $4.89. That is not what you're going to be getting because that share price is going to change when that share split goes through. It is actually, since it's a 1 for 5 stock split, that is actually like an 8% or 8 cents per share dividend. We're going to look on the historical data and see that that doesn't change from where it was. So 0.08 per share times 12, that is actually 96 cents per share you're going to be getting on dividends per year on that company, divided by the current share price. That is still a very solid 19.6% dividend yield. And if we look at the dividend history on this stock, 8 cents a share, that is what it was paying for. So it is not really changing its dividend per share amount. It's just that it is splitting its shares 1 for 5. So that that dividend is going up, but you're still getting essentially the same thing. We can see that it has dropped the dividend from 19 cents a share there in 2018, has cut it consistently down to 8 cents a share now. And so with that almost 20% dividend yield, it does get an A grade rating. It has cut the dividend 3 times, which isn't as bad as some of these other stocks here, but it is a C grade rating for the number of dividend cuts over the last 5 years. negative 15.9, negative 16% dividend growth over that by an annualized rate of 16% a year over 5 years. That is another F grade rating for dividend growth here, and a negative 15%, negative 15% total return on the shares over the last 5 years. Now, I'll show you how I figured these total returns and all of these here in a little bit. But even with the dividend, even with that 20% annual dividend, you would have lost 15% a year over the last 5 years. That is an F grade rating and makes this the fourth worst stock on our list. So here we see Armor as a mortgage REIT is in the same boat as Orchid, as that MREIT, but I think both will survive and post good returns in the future once the mortgage market returns, probably starting with rate cuts next year. I do like ARR here slightly better, but would still prefer maybe AGNC, some of those other mortgage REITs that we'll get to later on in our list. Next monthly dividend stock on our list, Dynex Capital, ticker DX. You can see here it has a 12% dividend yield. Rolling down on the dividend history, you can see it has been cut pretty significantly. But one thing I do like about Dynex Capital here is while it cut pretty aggressively there over the years from 2018 through 2020, it has not cut since June of 2020. It has been able to hold that dividend consistently, but it has cut from 54 cents there in 2018 down to 13 cents a share here in 2023. So you see here with that 12.2% dividend yield, it does get a B grade rating for that dividend yield. Three dividend cuts there over the last 5 years, although they were all in those earlier years. So a little bit better dividend consistency now in these more recent years, but still a grade of C there. It has dropped its dividend by 25% annualized over that period from that 50 cents a share all the way down to 13 cents a share. That's why it has a F grade rating here. But it does have a positive return of 5.4% a year if you had invested in these shares 5 years ago. So that gives it at least a C grade rating here for Dynex Capital. So, yep, another MREIT. These types of companies are the highest yielding REITs out there and usually set up these monthly dividend payers, whereas a lot of those traditional REITs, so a traditional real estate investment trust, are those quarterly dividend payers. It takes us back to the idea that if you're investing in these monthly dividend stocks, you really need to diversify across all the different types of businesses out there, like the MREITs, the business development corporations, those BDCs, and even MLPs, those master limited partnerships that are the oil companies. So you really don't see your portfolio fall apart when one specific type of business, like these MREITs, falls apart. Our next monthly dividend stock, sixth on the list here, Ellington Residential Mortgage REIT, ticker EARN. I swear, folks, there are other stocks here on the list besides these MREITs, but this Ellington Mortgage Real Estate Residential Mortgage REIT here, ticker EARN. It's a 15% dividend yield. Here in the dividend history, we can see that typical of mortgage REITs, that dividend cut over the years from 2018, dividend share of 37 cents per share dividend paid out there, all the way down to just 8 cents a share recently on this stock. So we can see almost a 15% dividend yield, does give it a B rating as far as dividend yield, but 4 dividend cuts lands it firmly in C territory. Negative 26% dividend growth over the last 5 years on an annualized basis there. So 26% down each year, an F there, and just 1.5% total return over the last 5 years. So this is still a positive return if you had invested. Not the best we'll see for these mortgage REITs on this list. But again, folks, I swear there are more to this list than just those mortgage REITs, but it gives you a sense of how badly hit the mortgage and that MREIT market has been over the last few years, with just these companies all bunched up here in the worst monthly dividend stock performance. Again, the market will rebound when those rates start coming down and people are able to afford their mortgages, but you want to be watching for the companies that are able to manage these bad times just as well as the good. So I would still avoid some of these worst performing mortgage REITs and look forward to the other ones on the list that have performed better even over the last couple of years. The Whitestone REIT, ticker WSR, you're going to get a 4.8% dividend yield from this stock. This is not a mortgage REIT. This is a traditional real estate investment trust owning retail properties, but it has also been pretty aggressive at cutting the dividend. We can scroll down here. 2018, a dividend of 9.5 cents per share was aggressively cut there in 2020 into the pandemic to conserve that cash flow. Now, it did increase its dividend rate in 2022 from 3.6 cents per share up to 4 cents a share. That's where it's at now. So a little bit more dividend stability and the consistency here over the last year. That dividend yield of just 4.9% gives it a B rating against these other 20 stocks. one dividend cut over the last 5 years gives it an A rating. So that consistency helps it up a little bit. The drop in the dividend from 9 cents a share all the way down to 4 cents is about 14% dividend decline each year. So that's a D rating. And you would have just broke even with the dividends in the stock over the last 5 years. So investing in 2018 in Whitestone REIT, ticker WSR, you would have broken even with the dividends when accounting for the dividends on the stock. That is a D rating. So yay, finally a stock that's not a mortgage REIT. Whitestone does own retail properties, so a more traditional real estate investment trust that owns those properties. It's focused on those open air strip mall kind of properties, which haven't been quite as bad, as hard hit as the malls over the last decade, but all that retail property is really feeling that slow death against e-commerce. And that's why these shares have underperformed a lot of the other real estate investment trusts in the market over the last 5 years. Cross Timbers Royalty Trust. Now, this isn't about timbers, but this is actually another energy royalty trust. You see here it offers a 9.8% dividend yield. And you can see here in the dividend history that typical volatility in the royalty trusts where they pay out almost all their cash flows each month. That makes that volatility in dividends just highly dependent on whatever they collect, whatever the cash flows they collect from those royalty assets from month to month. You can see here back in 2018, it was paying out about 12.5 cents per share dividend. That got all the way up to, we scroll up here, I imagine it's going to be in the later years when the oil really took off, 16 cents a share there in 2022, down to up to 19 cents a share here in July, but now down to 12.4% or 12.4 cents per share here in August 2023. So I think that dividend consistency is going to hurt it here. We have a 10% yield, which gives it a C rating. 29 dividend cuts over the last 5 years, though that does hurt it. Again, I'm going to explain why this might not be a factor for you as an investor later on. If you don't care about that dividend consistency, that dividend price volatility up and down, then it might not matter quite as much because, again, with 29 dividend cuts, you also have a lot of dividend increases over that period. Now, dividend growth over the last 5 years, this actually did decrease the dividend only slightly from the last 5 years, but I think it's really how you measure this on this. With so much dividend volatility, it's where really just how it falls, where that first dividend was 5 years ago and the current dividend is now. So that's a growth grade of C right now. You would have done pretty well, though, in shares of Cross Timbers Royalty over the last 5 years. You would have made 18% a year annualized. That is a return grade of A. So again, Cross Timbers has actually produced a really good overall return over the last 5 years, really helped by those surging oil prices. The big problem here is inconsistency in the dividend. So if that doesn't bother you, then this would be higher up on your list. We are just getting started on our list of monthly dividend stocks, but Nation, I do not want you investing in these just because you saw them here. Blindly following any YouTuber here on a stock is not a good investing strategy. That's why I created this quick 5-minute guide to stock analysis. In less time than it takes to say smash the like button, you'll know how to pick your own stocks and always know you're making the right investments. That quick start guide is totally free, just something I wanted to do for all you out there in the community. So look for that link in the video description below. Mesa Royalty Trust, another royalty trust here with an 11.24% dividend yield. And again, that typical volatility here in dividend payments, we can scroll down here. 8.7 cents per share dividend back in 2018. That made it all the way up to, we can see here 11 cents a share. We can see here 18.5 cents just last year when oil prices were really surging. So 18.5 cents per share dividend there in November of 2022. 23 cents here just earlier this year, but now down to just 4.1 cents per share dividend here in August 2023. Here, that 11.5% dividend yield gives it a grade of B. 21 dividend cuts, though, over the last 5 years, a grade of F. Negative 14% dividend growth over the last 5 years. Again, that is just where the measurement started 5 years ago versus today. But with these dividend cuts and the volatility in the dividend, that's really about an even for dividend growth. But a grade of D here, consisting on that 5-year period. If you had invested in these, again, royalty trusts have really benefited from those surging oil prices over the last 5 years. You would have made 15.5% a year investing in the stock. That is a grade of A for total return. So again, a couple of things you need to understand about these royalty trusts. Okay, they are very volatile along with oil prices. However oil prices go is the way the stock price and the dividend is going to go. They have surged with oil prices over the last couple of years. That might not happen in the future, depending on where oil prices go. That lack of dividend growth that we see here in the chart, maybe just more of a timing than anything. It just happened that this month, 5 years ago, was an especially good one, and last month was a bad one. Then it looks like the dividend has fallen more, even though it's risen and fallen over that period. So Mesa has still produced a 15% total annual return, so still a good investment if you want to be in these royalty trusts. We are halfway through the list here of monthly dividend stocks with Ellington Financial, ticker EFC, and its 13.5% dividend yield. Here, like the ones before it, in the dividend history, we do see some volatility in dividends since 2018. Started out at 41 cents a share, but quickly cut it there in the next year, in the 2019. But it has been fairly consistent since then. Cut it down to 15 cents a share there in 2020. Cut it a couple of more times, but it has increased since then over the last couple of years. It has held that dividend consistent at 15 cents a share since 2021. So much better dividend consistency over the last few years. Again, Ellington makes it 10th on our list. 13.7% dividend gives it a grade rating of B. 2 dividend cuts over the last 5 years. Very good compared to some of these other monthly dividend stocks we've seen, grade of B. There, though it is an 18% annualized dividend decline over those 5 years. That is a grade rating of F, but at 8.1% total return or annualized return over the last 5 years, that's pretty good. That's a grade of B and on that total return basis. So here with Ellington Financial, we get to those better performing MREITs. Okay, so Ellington is a mortgage REIT. One of the ones I'd look for that eventual rebound rather than some of the other mortgage REITs that we saw lower on the list. Ellington has performed well over those 5 years, 8.1% annualized return over the last 5 years. Much better than a lot of the mortgage REITs that have just fallen apart. Ellington Financial has been able to limit its dividend cuts and still produce that annual return versus losses of 8 and 15% a year on some of these others like Orchid and Armor. A popular monthly dividend stock on the list here, Gladstone Commercial Corporation, ticker GOOD, is going to have an 8.9% dividend yield. And one thing about Gladstone Commercial here, you can see in the dividend history, it had a consistent dividend, 12.5 cents per share, all the way back to 2018, a very long time. Very good dividend consistency versus a lot of those other traditional real estate investment trusts. But it did cut just here in January of this year to conserve cash flow, cut that dividend down to 10 cents a share. So that did hurt good on our rankings. 9% dividend yield gives it about a C rating. That 1 dividend cut still gives it an A grade rating. Not the best on our list with 0 dividend cuts, but did have 1 dividend cut there this year. Negative 4.4% annualized growth in dividends. That is from that 12.5 cents a share down to 10 cents a share now. So that does give it, does knock it a little bit, that C rating there, but a 0.6% total or annualized return over the last 5 years. That is not great. Good dividends on this stock, but the actual price return has been less than optimal. So Gladstone Commercial would likely be higher up on this list if not for that dividend cut earlier this year. That surprised everyone with this cut. This stock was extremely consistent before that. That's how bad these rising interest rates have been for real estate stocks, really the entire industry. This should be a good one for that rebound in real estate I'm expecting over the next few years as interest rates start coming down again. Number 12 on our list, we're getting into the top 10 monthly dividend stocks. From 38 cents a share down to 25 cents a share there in 2021. It has since increased it. So a little bit better dividend consistency and dividend growth here in this stock in EPR Properties. That 7.5% dividend yield does give it a C rating. That's 1 dividend cut here over the last 5 years. And that good dividend consistency lately gives it an A rating there. That dividend has fallen by about 5% annually over the last 5 years compared to that 5 years ago period. That is a C rating. So it dings the stock a little bit. And the total return in this has not been great. If you would have invested in this stock in EPR Properties in 2018, you would have lost about 3.6% a year, even after accounting for that dividend yield. So we're starting to see a lot of those real estate investment trusts here, those traditional real estate companies that have been hit hard by rates, but not quite as bad as those mortgage REITs. EPR is a little odd here in that it focuses its property focus on entertainment and leisure properties. Those are things like theaters, resorts, theme parks. It's a very consumer spending driven play, and honestly, I've never been much for this type of property versus some of the other property type REITs that we're going to talk about. Lucky number 13, Agree Realty Corporation, ticker ADC, going to pay a 4.8% dividend yield here. If we look in the dividend history here, we see something similar to what we saw with that last dividend stock. We see a high dividend here, 54 cents per share back in 2018, running into problems there into the pandemic. Increased their dividend up to 60 cents a share, 62 cents a share here in December of 2020, but then had to cut to protect those cash flows dropping from the lockdowns, from the pandemic, cut to 20 cents a share. It has since increased that consistently, though, up to 24.3 cents per share for this stock. So it has gone back to increasing its dividend. That is a very good sign for dividend consistency. Here, ticker ADC with its 4.8% dividend yield, not very high on our list, only a grade rating of D, but only one dividend cut is a rating of A. So that helps support that little bit lower yield on our ranking. That said, it has decreased its dividend by about 10% annualized over that 5 years, just a factor of it starting so high in 2018 and then cutting it so low there through the pandemic. So a grade rating of D for its dividend growth. If you had invested in this stock about 5 years ago, though, you would have made almost 5% a year. So that is not great, but still fairly good compared to a lot of these other stocks. A grade rating of C on the return grade. ADC is another real estate company investing in retail properties. And while the company claims it's reimagining retail, the shares haven't done much since 2018. Along with that pain in interest rates, retail is just facing that retail versus e-commerce struggle that kind of puts a question mark out here in the future for the stock. Apple Hospitality REIT, ticker APLE, not Apple Computers, Apple Hospitality REIT, going to pay about a 6% dividend yield. Here in the dividend history, we can scroll down and we see it was paying a 10 cents per share dividend back in 2018. And the same thing happened to a lot of other real estate companies. It had to cut there in 2021 to preserve those cash flows, build itself back up after the pandemic, down to just 1 cent per share dividend. But as that has increased it regularly since then, 21, 22, here in 23, paying now 8 cents per share dividend. So almost back up to that same dividend level, that 10 cents per share dividend it was paying 5 years ago. That 5.9% dividend yield gives it a C rating there for yield. Just one dividend cut over the last 5 years gives it an A rating, so supporting the stock a little bit, though it is still slightly below that 5 years ago dividend, so negative dividend yield growth here over the last 5 years, grade rating of C. That said, you would have made about 4.1% a year in the stock when accounting for dividends. That is a total return grade of C. And I always wonder how many investors think Apple Hospitality has anything to do with Apple Computers. It is a fairly big player in those hotel properties, though, with about 220 hotels in 37 states. That's across the Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt brands. So it is a legit company on its own. There's the top six monthly dividend payers on this list have an average yield of 7%, and 5 have increased their dividends over the last 5 years. But first, I want to show you how I ranked this list, how to find your own best monthly dividend stocks. Now, getting the dividend information was actually pretty easy online. I used Yahoo Finance, but this is on any investing platform. I first went to each dividend stock and copied down the dividend yield here on the first page. To find the number of dividend cuts, I went to this historical data tab, set the time period to 5 years, and then to show dividends only. I used 5 years here for all my research because with that longer time period, you get a sense of the consistency in that dividend payment and more important, the company's commitment to shareholder cash return. Rolling through this page, I could see how many times the dividend has been cut. And it's important here to understand there are two strategies for dividend-paying companies. Some pay out as much money as possible every month and nearly all of their earnings each month. That means dividends are going to jump around more, and you're going to see more cuts versus companies that really try giving investors some consistency in cash flow. If you are depending on that cash flow, then obviously you want that consistency. If you're just looking for the highest possible payment, though, then maybe it's not quite as important. For that dividend growth, I divided the most recent dividend payment by the first one listed here 5 years ago. For example, SL Green Realty's 27 cents per share dividend in August divided by the 86 cents dividend payment in September 2018. Now, since this is over 5 years, you tap this X to the Y button on the calculator and then 0.2, then -1 to get an annualized number. I know that's a lot of math and probably only interesting to us numbers nerds like myself, but this is actually how you get that average annualized return for everything from return on sales growth, dividend growth, a lot of really important analysis for those longer term trends. Anyway, if we take 0.27, so that's
Sorry, bro. I was rolling up. I didn't realize that you was reviving me. I thought I was left for dead. If you would, pick me up again if you can.
that negative total return over the last 5 years, but it has managed much better than a lot of its competitors. You still get that 15% dividend yield that can only have been cut twice in the last 5 years, and I think much better upside appreciation in this stock in the future. We're approaching number one in our monthly dividend stocks. Next up here, Stag Industrial, ticker STAG, with its 4% dividend yield, one of actually the lowest in the list. But if you scroll here through the dividend history, you'll see why it is ranked a little bit higher than many of the other.
If you've got more than $10,000 in the bank and you're thinking about investing in e-commerce or trucking automation just to get a measly 5 to 7%.
Big Pharma is in trouble, hidden by runaway examples like Eli Lilly and NBO, up more than 158% over the last 2 years, or others like BMY and Pfizer that have lost more than a third of their value. And the broader S&P Pharmaceuticals Group, the XPH, is down almost 2% over the period. Fears of price controls on drugs have hurt, but it is a massive pipeline cliff that is punishing many of these stocks, and it is only going to get worse. It started with layoffs in the thousands of major drug makers, and now we're seeing a massive cut to spending on research and development. Charles River, a key supplier of drug discovery services to drug makers, shocked the market on its earnings report, expecting declining revenue and saying there are profound cuts at pharmaceutical companies. Pfizer announced an additional $1.5 billion in cuts by 2027 when it reported in May, on top of the existing $4 billion cost-cutting program from last year. Bristol Myers, ticker BMY, recently said it would cut 2,200 jobs this year and shave $1.5 billion out of costs through 2025. And why this is important? Because the industry is already facing a giant drop in revenues as patents expire. The top 20 pharmaceutical companies alone could lose $183 billion in sales through 2028. You see, when a new drug clears FDA trials, a patent or exclusive use for the company is given usually for around 20 years. But when those patents expire and other companies can copy the drug, it can mean a patent cliff in revenue. Blockbuster drugs can account for a big chunk of a company's sales. Humira alone was 32% of AbbVie revenue when it lost its patent protection last year, resulting in an immediate loss of $4 billion in sales and ongoing competition. So then that decreased spending on drug development by the majors is only going to make the patent cliff worse, threatening revenues even further. It looks like Amgen, ticker AMGN, has the most to lose, with 67% of its revenue at risk to that patent expiration. Following closely is Bristol Myers, with 63% of its revenue at risk, including both $12 billion Eliquis and $8 billion Opdivo, which lose protection from 2026 through 2028. Shares are down more than 20% over the last year, and revenue is already expected to fall next year. Among the relatively safer stocks could be Gilead Sciences, ticker GILD, with just 24% of its revenue exposed to those patent expirations through 2030, and AbbVie, ticker ABBV, with 29% of revenue coming off patent expiration over that period. But with any threat to a group of stocks, there is also an opportunity. That's because the primary way Big Pharma plugs holes in its pipelines when companies just aren't spending enough to develop those drugs themselves is to buy new drug discoveries. Analysts at Morgan Stanley estimate the major drug makers have $383 billion set aside for acquisitions, and that could mean outsized returns for 7 stocks I'm watching. First up, one of the smaller stocks on the list, Mirum Pharmaceuticals, ticker MIRM, at a $2 billion market cap. Mirum is a biotech focused on rare liver diseases with 4 approved indications and 4 in late-stage trials that could boost growth even further. The company reported Livmarli sales of 45% over the last year to $47 million, and reaffirmed its full-year revenue guidance to between $310 and $320 million. That would be a 69% higher from last year. Now, that very strong revenue growth of 69% this year is expected to slow to 28% next, though that still takes the company to $400 million in revenue. Mirum is still expected to post a loss, but that negative earnings is expected to plunge to just 79 cents a share from nearly $4 a share last year, and could go positive within another year. A recent label expansion for Livmarli to older patients could fuel more growth next year, with another study starting in the second half to expand it into another indication. The company's pipeline in 3 other drugs and 4 indications should help further continue that growth over the next few years. A critical piece in analysis for these biotech stocks, especially the smaller ones like Mirum, is the cash flow statement. Most of these are going to be cash flow negative in operations and for free cash flows. That's the operating cash flow plus some investment spending. It's hugely expensive to research and develop a new drug, which is why they're so expensive, and patents protect sales for a long time. That said, the company needs balance sheet cash to survive and pay for that R&D until it gets products through testing and revenue catches up. You see that in this end cash position row, and you see that while Mirum posted an outflow of $23 million in operational cash flow, along with spending of $250 million investing in R&D, it still has $233 million in balance sheet cash, combined with more capacity for debt. That should hold it over while revenue and earnings grow. We're just getting started on our list of stocks to buy. But if you want to see the 5 stocks I'm buying for the next 30 years, my forever stocks, look for the link I'll leave in the description below. It's a free report I put together with the Motley Fool, some of the biggest stocks in my portfolio. These are the stocks I'm following in major multi-year themes, with one of the picks up 100%, and the group up an average 94% last year alone. That report is totally free. You're going to see the first stock immediately, and they'll email you the full report with the other stocks. It's an easy way to support the Let's Talk Money community and see some of my favorite stocks to buy, so look for that link below. So Repta Therapeutics, ticker SRPT, is one of the larger companies on the list at $13.4 billion market cap, but with some strong drugs in its pipeline. The company just recently received an expanded approval from the FDA for its muscular dystrophy drug Elevidys, a drug that is expected to add another $2 billion to annual revenue within 2 years. Beyond that blockbuster, the company also has several other trials ongoing in RNA-targeted therapies, gene therapy, and gene editing indications. As it stands, revenue is expected to jump 41% this year and 78% next to over $3 billion, with earnings up 605% as the company's 4 drugs take it to another level. Like most biotechs, this one has a history of big ups and downs as those drug trials are approved or declined by regulators. The company is constantly improving its discovery process and already has some very good acquisition targets. Another stock I'm buying on the theme is Recursion Pharmaceuticals, ticker RXRX, for what could be a revolution in drug discovery. Recursion is leading in the race to decode biology and recently announced its language model orchestrated workflow engine, or LOW, to perform complex drug discovery tasks using a natural language interface. It's doing this by running experiments through purpose-built AI models on massive datasets, enabling it to screen and find the compounds that won't work, basically to fail faster, so it spends less time and money developing those drugs that aren't going to work. So through this use of AI, Recursion could dramatically lower costs for drug development, an advantage that would be worth tens of billions to big pharma companies. The company has 6 programs in pipeline trials for 7 indications, 4 of which are in phase 2 and expecting results within the next 2 quarters. NVIDIA recently invested in the company with a $50 million equity investment and is providing priority access to its hardware and resources. Recursion also has research partnerships with major healthcare companies like Bayer and Genentech, driving $58 million in sales this year. The company is also still posting negative earnings and is actually expected to see those losses grow as it spends more on development, but revenue growth is high enough for that risk. Sales are expected up 60% this year and 25% next to almost $90 million. But cash flow is a bigger question mark here than with our first 2 stocks. Operating cash flow has progressively gone deeper negative as the company spends more on its models. It borrowed heavily over the last year, adding $400 million in debt to cover that cash flow, and still saw negative free cash flow of $345 million. Still, the $483 million in balance sheet cash and strong interest in what AI could do for drug development should provide financing for the company as long as it needs. We've still got 4 stocks to highlight, including a way to get the upside potential on the entire theme without having to pick individual stocks. But first, I've got to send that special shout out to all you out there in the nation. Thank you for spending a part of your day to be here. If you're not part of the community yet, just click that little red subscribe button. It's free and you'll never miss an episode. Another stock in that AI drug discovery theme is Schrödinger, ticker SDGR. This one's smaller at just $1.5 billion market cap. Schrödinger is supplementing its own drug discovery revenue by licensing out its software, which brought in $159 million of the total $216 million revenue last year. That's helping to minimize the cash burn while it develops its own pipeline along with 17 collaborations, including Eli Lilly, Genentech, and Bristol Myers. Schrödinger doesn't have the expected growth we saw with Recursion, with negative revenue growth this year before rebounding to 20% next. Earnings are also more deeply negative here, so this is the riskier of the 2 AI drug discovery stocks. Cash flow is a bigger problem here as well, with the same increasingly negative outflows, but also a smaller in-cash position to cover those future outflows. The reason I'm including Schrödinger in our list, beyond that strong interest in AI drug discovery that could make this a 10-bagger stock still, is that much of the bad news could already be priced in with a price-to-sales valuation of just 7.4 times. That is considerably cheaper than the 33 times price-to-sales investors are paying for Recursion right now, so any good news for Schrödinger could see a jump in the shares. Really, the biggest problem in this theme of buying those biotech stocks and potential takeover targets is that you almost need a PhD or experience in the industry. Take a look at the analysts covering pharmaceutical stocks and biotechs, and they almost all have deep experience in either healthcare or pharmacy. That's what it takes to really understand the process for drug discovery and clinical trials. One way around this for Main Street investors is to buy a broad-based ETF like the SPDR S&P Biotech Fund, the XBI. It's the largest and really the go-to ETF, holding 134 companies, and will give you some of that upside potential to the acquisition boom in Big Pharma, because these are going to be the companies acquired. The big drawback to the XBI is the stocks in it are themselves giant companies with an average market cap of $32 billion. So I'm afraid most of them are too big to be bought out, and even a strong buyout trend may not move the ETF as much. It's still a great way to get that broad exposure to the theme and will do well. Another ETF you might check out is the Virtus Life Sciences Biotech Clinical Trials, ticker BBC, which has 2/3 of the fund in small or mid-cap biotechs, so very much smaller companies that, were they to be acquired, would see a bigger move in the fund. It's a very small fund and very high expense ratio, so maybe more helpful is just using it as a place to start your research, going to the top holdings and seeing what stocks it's buying to find ideas for your own portfolio. We've still got another stock to highlight, one that I just bought researching this video, but folks, with the coming election and rate cuts, one thing is certain: stock market volatility and uncertainty is back. Fortunately, I found 7 stocks that actually win during market chaos, 7 stocks that need to be on your radar, so make sure you watch this video next. I hadn't seen Amicus Therapeutics, ticker FOLD, before researching for this video, but it's definitely one to watch in the theme. This is still a relatively small biotech at $3.5 billion and concentrated in 2 approved therapies. It's Galafold for Fabry disease and the recently approved Pombiliti plus Opfolda, a 2-component therapy for late-onset Pompe disease. The company reported second quarter revenue up 34% over the last year, beating estimates and raised its guidance for Galafold sales for the second time this year. Galafold now has 60% market share for its indication, helping the company reach non-GAAP profitability in the first half. Amicus also guided to 490% sales growth in its recently approved Pombiliti and Opfolda therapy, suggesting a very strong launch. Growth targets for Amicus aren't the highest of the group, but it is consistent with 29% sales growth this year and 23% expected next year to $640 million. Even better is this one could turn GAAP earnings positive next year, which would be a big driver for investor sentiment. And even more to like, besides the decreasing negative cash flow, the company has plenty of cash on hand to cover it. Amicus closed out the last quarter with over $200 million in cash against an operating cash deficit of just $42 million over the last year. It can fund that growth for years at this rate as sales catch up and earnings go positive. See the stocks I'm buying for the next 30 years, my forever stocks, free but only with the link in the description below. Or click on the video to the right for the 7 stocks that win on market volatility. Don't forget to join the Let's Talk Money community by tapping that subscribe button and clicking the bell notification. Artificial intelligence will change our lives, and until now, investors only had to buy shares of NVIDIA to enjoy the upside, a 900% return in just 2 years, but down 12% since the peak, and at $3 trillion market cap, investors can no longer rely on NVIDIA for that 10x AI returns. For the semiconductor giant to produce that same 900% return again, it would have to grow to a $27 trillion valuation, almost as big as the entire U.S. economy, and larger than the largest 20 companies in the United States combined. There is one group of stocks, though, that can produce that 9 and even 10 or 20 times return on your money over the next 5 years. Penny stocks of companies using AI to revolutionize our lives. The 7 stocks I'll highlight have an average market value of just $545 million, meaning they could 10x your money and still be smaller than any stock in the S&P 500 with more room to grow. Let's get started on our list with Inuvo Inc., ticker INUV, at just 26 cents a share. But stick around, and I'll reveal a critical rule to investing in penny stocks of AI companies. Inuvo is on the forefront of one of the first use cases for enterprise AI, marketing and advertising. Klarna made headlines last month reporting $10 million in annual savings to its marketing budget from the use of just AI alone. Inuvo built its intent key language models off of over 110 billion pages of content to understand consumer interests and intent to better match advertising. It's a real-time advertising tool that doesn't rely on cookies and hopes to grab a piece of the $298 billion U.S. digital ad spend every year. The company booked 20% annual revenue growth in the last quarter and has a strong balance sheet with $4 million in cash and no debt. Forecasts are for an average 22% sales growth this year and next, with the loss per share narrowing to just 1 penny. And next, the largest company on the list, I highlighted Pagaya Technologies, ticker PGY, recently as an AI fintech stock to watch. The company uses artificial intelligence in credit risk and analysis for consumer loans, auto loans, and other products to predict customer behavior more accurately and to lower defaults. That allows partners like SoFi, Klarna, and US Bank to assess loans faster and approve more loans. That is a leaner business model than other fintechs running their own lending platforms. Instead, Pagaya uses its AI model through partner lenders for their loan process. With this, Pagaya limits a lot of the operational expenses like running and marketing its own platform. That frees the company up to focus on adding lending partners and save on consumer marketing. Revenue is expected up 29% this year and 17% next. And unlike a lot of the other penny stocks you're going to see, profitability is within reach. Net income is expected to reach 37 cents per share next year, and the company is already EBITDA profitable. We'll get back to that list of penny stocks to buy. But if you want to see the 5 stocks I'm buying right now for the next 30 years, my forever stocks, look for the link I'll leave in the description below. It's a free report I put together with the Motley Fool, some of the biggest stocks in my portfolio. These are the stocks I'm following in major multi-year themes, with one of the picks up 100% and the group up an average 94% last year alone. That report is totally free. You're going to see the first stock immediately, and they'll email you the full report with the other stocks. It's an easy way to support the Let's Talk Money community and see some of my favorite stocks to buy. So look for that link in the description or just click the QR code here. I hate the name of this next one, but Perfect Corporation, ticker PERF, at $222 million market cap is definitely one to watch. Naming your AI beauty company Perfect just seems a little on the nose, but pun intended, what it's doing, it does perfectly match the influencer era of the industry. The company serves the enterprise market with a software as a service model, helping a business's customers try on products before they buy. Perfect also serves the consumer market directly with its mobile apps and generative AI features for makeup, hair, nails, and fashion. The model supports 90,000 skin tones and more than 10 makeup textures, taking nearly 4,000 point references on a person's face. Beauty and makeup has become an influencer-driven social industry, and the model here has so many other use cases. With users to the mobile app growing 30% to 900,000 over the last year, Perfect reported 18% year-over-year revenue growth in the first quarter to $14 million and $54 million in the last year, and has guided to 15% sales growth this year to $61 million. It's not super high growth, but consistent, and there is a huge market for this company that's ready for AI. Better still, the company is already net income and cash flow positive. BigBear.ai, ticker BBAI, has seen brief jumps in the shares when investors swarm into AI stocks, but has given back those gains. Now, that does tell me a lot of the sentiment for the stock depends on that AI theme, and the company hasn't quite yet convinced investors it has that competitive advantage in its model. That said, Big Bear is in one of my favorite themes within AI, helping companies make sense of all that overload in data. They help companies organize and visualize raw data to turn it into actionable insights, because this is key and really the first step in AI, just managing all the data collected and then being able to make sense of it. That's helped Big Bear grow its customer base and a $206 million backlog for revenue. It's also produced some major wins recently, including exclusivity with L3Harris and a $32 million award across 3 contracts with the U.S. Army, a relationship that has grown 235% in the last 3 years. Again, Big Bear still has some work to do to impress investors. The company reported just 0.5% revenue growth in the fourth quarter to $40 million, though it was able to boost its gross profitability to 32% over the quarter. The company was able to report a positive EBITDA of $3.7 million on a non-GAAP basis versus a loss of $2.5 million last year, so it is definitely moving in the right direction. Earnings here are expected negative through next year, but with a 20% average revenue growth, and this one is trading at an attractive valuation at just 1.6 times sales. We're coming up on 3 AI penny stocks that you will not want to miss, but there is a problem with these that we don't always have with other penny stocks, and it leads to more risk for investors. The problem with these small AI companies, are really just about any AI stock that isn't one of the mega cap companies like Google or Microsoft, is the breadth of competition and uncertainty for who's going to create that killer app. You see, with artificial intelligence still in its infancy, there are so many private companies as well as publicly traded stocks, all pouring millions, billions of dollars into research and development to innovate that breakthrough use case. That creates a lot of uncertainty for who's eventually going to be successful, and with investing, uncertainty means risk. Now, we have talked about creating a penny stock portfolio in the past. The idea that these micro cap companies are just starting out are the riskiest of the risky for investors. You need to spread that risk around at least 10 penny stocks. Now, as with venture capital, more than half the stocks are going to go nowhere or bust completely, but even if 3 or 5 of them go 10, 20, or 30 times your money, you've got a hell of a portfolio return. That's especially true for these AI penny stocks, and you might look for 10 to 15 stocks to spread that risk out even further. Here also, you're going to need to give those companies time to develop their AI use cases and open up the market. Other than a few headline cases like these, the use cases for AI are still developing very slowly. Even a company with that killer app is going to need time to develop its market and grow revenue, so plan on holding your AI stocks for at least 3 years. At just over $1.1 billion market cap, Lemonade Inc., ticker LMND, doesn't quite meet our size criteria for a penny stock, but it's very close and still has that penny stock growth that we're looking for. Launched in 2015 with a specific intent to disrupt the traditional model of insurance for the 21st century, Lemonade uses AI throughout its model, from its virtual assistant AI Maya that collects information and guides customers through a quote, to AI Jim, its claims algorithm, and another CX.ai that handles customer support. From there, several systems are also used in the back office efficiency and platform management and fraud protection. Bigger than a lot of the others on our list, Lemonade still brings the growth, with premiums up 22% from a year ago, nearly 10 times the industry average growth rate. Key here is the efficiency brought by its AI model, seen here in the loss adjustment expense ratio, or LAE, which that's the claims loss expenses divided by gross earned premiums, and really a core operational efficiency metric for insurers. Lemonade has been able to consistently lower its LAE, now down to 7.6%, well under the benchmark of 10%, even for those large insurers. The one thing that worries me about the company is it is still far from profitable. Though it is expected to narrow that net income loss to $2.40 a share next year, it does have a healthy $285 million in balance sheet cash, and that revenue growth will help, but this one still has a long way to grow. Up next, Lantronix, ticker LTRX, reached cash flow profitability last year as a strong player in the IoT theme driven by AI. The company operates in 3 core areas of software as a service, value added, and hardware to industrial users, and could be expandable into other customer verticals. Weaker revenue growth over the 2022 and 23 period is starting to turn. I really like the profitability story here. Management is forecasting at least 18% revenue growth this year, along with 50% growth in earnings per share. What I like most about Lantronix is it's reached cash flow positive on an operational basis last year and blew past it over the last 12 months, generating nearly $20 million in free cash flow. With continued growth, it should dig out of this recent investor disappointment and take the stock price higher. I have 6,000 shares and more than $30,000 in this next penny stock, but don't just load up your portfolio with AI stocks. Check out this video for the 5 penny stocks beating the Rule of 40, my favorite measure for success when working as a venture capital analyst. Using this rule helped me find startups and stocks with the perfect balance between growth and profits. I've been following SoundHound AI, ticker SOUN, since recommending it at $3.70 a share in February. It shot up past $8 a share on an investment from NVIDIA into the company, but has since come back down into value territory. Like Lemonade, this one is just outside that penny stock size at $1.3 billion market cap, but I think there is still a lot of upside growth here, so I wanted to highlight it. SoundHound is a leader in conversational AI to businesses that can be used to build AI assistants in more than 25 languages. And that market for AI assistants could be ginormous, even larger than the $160 billion enterprise market SoundHound estimates here. SoundHound's competitive advantage could be in its ability to reach a deeper meaning faster in its program. The AI combines the automatic speech recognition, or ASR, with natural language understanding, NLU steps, in a typical voice AI software into just one step to understand the context of conversations in real time. All that is backed up by a patent library of more than 260 patents through speech recognition, natural language processing, and machine learning. Shares were up 17% last year and surged 150% in the first 2 months of this year when NVIDIA reported a $3.7 million investment into the company, sending the stock up 67% in a single day. That was followed quickly by a disappointing earnings report, where while SoundHound did report 47% growth in revenue and a net loss that almost halved, it did miss earnings forecast by 8%, and the outlook for 39% revenue growth going forward was also below estimates. But rather than any fundamental issues with the company, I think this one is just one of those readjustments that fast growth stocks have to go through from time to time. Wall Street and investors get ahead of themselves and get disappointed, sending shares crashing, but really creating a buying opportunity for braver, long-term investors. Forecasted growth is the highest on this list, and that investment by NVIDIA is a huge vote of confidence in this AI stock. Get your free report and see the stocks I'm buying for the next 30 years, my forever stocks, up an average 94% last year alone. Or click on the video to the right for the 5 penny stocks beating my favorite measure for stocks to buy. Don't forget to join the Let's Talk Money community by tapping that subscribe button and clicking the bell notification. Hey Bowtie Nation, Joseph Hogue with your weekly stock market update, 9 a.m. every Monday with the stocks to watch this week and the stock market news you need to see. And Nation, trading on insider information is illegal. The non-public information inside boardrooms and the executive suites of companies has the potential to swing a stock wildly, but to keep a level playing field, the SEC prohibits inside info from being used by those in the know. There is one way to get that information legally, though, and use it to grow your portfolio. We're going to look into NVIDIA's most recent 13F, the legal filing reporting those stocks that the company is buying based on its own inside information, and how you can piggyback on its expertise in artificial intelligence. Stick around after that, and I'll highlight the stocks I'm watching this week, including important updates to Alibaba, ChargePoint Holdings, and Salesforce. First, though, with the bull market looking a little tired over the past 2 weeks, I'm investing my free cash for a 7% yield in worthy bonds. a fixed income platform with bonds backed by small business and short-term real estate loans. You can invest as little as $10 per bond and earn interest on a daily basis. Best of all, you can withdraw all or some of your money anytime with no fees or penalties. Worthy even has a roundup feature that lets you invest your spare change on purchases into bonds, automatically building your portfolio. I'll leave a link in the description for more information. Use the link and you're going to get an exclusive deal I worked out for everyone in the Bowtie Nation. Buy 5 bonds and get 1 free. Invest just $50 and get a $10 bond free. That is a 20% return on top of that 7% interest rate. So look for the link below or just scan this QR code here. Back to our main topic, and folks, no other chip maker can replicate the kind of performance we see in NVIDIA chips, the ability to run those AI operations. Now that means if you're a company using artificial intelligence, you're probably going to be using NVIDIA semiconductors, whether in your products or in your data centers to train your software. And all this means NVIDIA has its finger on the pulse of AI, giving it that special insight, that inside information into which technologies and which companies have the most potential. All NVIDIA has to do is look through its customer list. And it turns out NVIDIA has used that inside information for its own gain, buying strategic and investment positions in the companies that could lead in the next phase of artificial intelligence. NVIDIA holds investments in 40 other companies, along with 87 subsidiaries and 13 merged or pending acquisitions. Now, while most of these are private companies, 5 of them are publicly traded stocks, giving you the opportunity to piggyback on NVIDIA's special position in AI. How do we know this? Every company or large institutional investor is required to file a Form 13F with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, disclosing their investments in publicly traded stocks. That disclosure is meant to help the SEC head off any possible stock price manipulation by hedge funds and other big money players, but can also be used by investors to jump on those investments ahead of an acquisition or just a bump in the price. You can always find these 13F filings by going to the SEC EDGAR database online and searching for the company name. Then click through where you see the most recent 13F report for a list of those investments. Now, it is important to note here, not all of these investments in another company are worth jumping in on. For example, Google is known for investing in private companies it might eventually want to acquire. And these kinds of strategic investments could mean a bump in the share price eventually if that acquisition is made, but could be years into the future and may never happen. But then a recent change in NVIDIA's holdings tells me that might not be the case here. Earlier this year, NVIDIA disclosed it had held nearly a 14% stake of sidewalk delivery startup Serve Robotics heading into its April IPO of shares after a 2022 investment of $10 million into the company. That position was worth about $17 million after the IPO, but is now gone from NVIDIA's most recent 13F report, meaning they sold those shares. It leads me to believe that NVIDIA is also taking an investment approach here, buying shares in companies it thinks are going to do well in that AI revolution, whether it wants to acquire them into the future or not. And the company just reported $230 million in these 5 stocks. ARM Holdings, ticker ARM, is NVIDIA's largest dollar investment with over 1.9 million shares worth $147 million. But because of ARM's massive $126 billion size, only amounts to a 0.19% share of the company, the smallest ownership stake in the list. ARM designs microprocessor architectures, which are the blueprint for semiconductor chips, which are the brains for any electronic device. It then licenses these blueprints out to chip makers like NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel to create their semiconductors. So seeing that potential in this, NVIDIA originally tried to acquire the entire company in 2020, reaching an agreement with SoftBank to buy ARM for $40 billion. It would have created an unstoppable powerhouse in AI and a steal compared to that eventual IPO valuation, but the FTC stepped in to stop the acquisition. It was called off in 2022. NVIDIA still wanted a piece, though, and invested over $147 million in the IPO, giving it a foothold into the company. Shares of ARM have doubled since the IPO last year and are trading at 39 times last year's $3.2 billion revenue, with sales forecasted as high as $4.2 billion this year. Now, that is 30% growth, and with recurring royalty revenue becoming a larger part of this total sales here, this one is going to keep building on that growth. From one of the largest to one of the smallest stocks here at $477 million market cap, NanoX Imaging, ticker NNOX. NVIDIA owns just under 60,000 shares, worth $379,000, or about 1% of this medical imaging company. NanoX runs its digital imaging system with an AI-based suite of algorithms to augment that routine CT imaging, highlighting early signs of chronic diseases. The company has a current approval with the FDA and has submitted with the EU and is building out its sales and distribution departments. NanoX is a very early stage and under $10 million in sales over the last year, deep in the red here on profitability, but growth could be off the charts. Analysts expect revenue to jump 147% this year and 200% next to $75 million as the company builds out its U.S. business. And that's typical of many of these NVIDIA investments, moonshot investments that could return 10 times the company's money. NanoX trades at a price of 49 times its trailing revenue right now, but if it can hit that $75 million forecast over the next 2 years, it'll make the current $490 million market cap look like a steal. I've highlighted Recursion Pharmaceuticals, RXRX, on the channel recently as a potential 10x stock, and it looks like NVIDIA likes it too, with the largest percentage ownership of the 5 stocks. NVIDIA owns 7.7 million shares, or about $76 million worth of the $2 billion company. Recursion is leading in the race to decode biology and recently announced its language model, the Orchestrated Workflow Engine, or LOW, to perform complex drug discovery tasks using a natural language interface. This is still a fairly small biotech at just $2 billion market cap. Like most drug developers, it's not profitable yet, but has a strong balance sheet and some very strong intellectual property that, yes, could make it a takeover target eventually, but I think NVIDIA's investment here is just pure return play. AI drug discovery is one of the most promising and talked about themes within that larger trend, helping to reduce billions in costs for drug development. I recommended shares of SoundHound AI, ticker SOUN, around $3.77 in February, just before NVIDIA disclosed its share of the company, a stake of 1.7 million shares worth $3.7 million. Or about 0.5% ownership. SoundHound is a leader in conversational AI to businesses that can be used to build AI assistants in more than 25 languages. Of course, the market for AI assistants could be ginormous, even larger than the $160 billion enterprise market SoundHound estimates here. The speech side of artificial intelligence could be the next big step in AI interactions, and while there are a lot of startups racing to that finish, the investment by NVIDIA is a strong vote of confidence in SoundHound. The shares surged 67% in a single day on the release of that investment in February, but came down off the high in March and April. I took advantage of the drop to add more shares, now with a position over 6,000 shares in the company. Like most of these AI stocks, though, SoundHound trades for a rich valuation, but growth and the potential is there. Analysts expect sales to grow by 55% this year and 47% next, while earnings come down to narrow that loss per share. This next one, though, is very interesting for the size of the company. Two Simple Holdings, ticker TSPH, a microcap penny stock at just $62 million market cap, with NVIDIA holding 3.5 million shares worth about $3 million and 1.5% of the company. Two Simple was once thought to be the leader in transitioning to an autonomous commercial trucking, a market worth over $1.5 trillion in the US and China alone. The company had already completed several routes with limited or no driver engagements and had operation agreements with the UPS and USPS. But then the company chose to delist from the NASDAQ in January of this year and exit from the US market. Now, Two Simple had been a target of the FBI and SEC investigations into its relationship with other Chinese companies and decided to focus on proving its technology in the Chinese market first. So of all these investments, this is the most interesting for a number of reasons. At first is just the relative size of the company at just $62 million market cap. Two Simple issued shares now during the 2021 post-pandemic heyday, valuing the company at $8 billion. That was a ridiculous valuation, but even a return to $1 billion valuation here would be a 1,600% return. This is also interesting because we really don't know NVIDIA's motives here on the stock. It's a new investment just this year, but at $3 million investment, it's not something that's going to move the needle on NVIDIA's returns, even if the stock price does bounce higher. So while I think this could be a good Hail Mary investment, I think NVIDIA might just be using this instead as a signal to the Chinese government, an olive branch, so to speak, that despite U.S. restrictions on its chips being sold in that country, it's still a proponent of Chinese companies. Now, that is just my opinion, though, so if you have another insight or perspective in this, let us know in the comments in the video. Turning it over to the stocks I'm watching this week. First up, CrowdStrike Holdings, ticker CRWD, one of the last cybersecurity stocks to report its earnings when it releases results on Tuesday. Peers have presented a very mixed picture here, with Fortinet and Palo Alto both warning that enterprise customers were slow in purchasing and seeing their shares slump on the outlook, while Zscaler last week was up as much as 15% on its optimistic outlook for sales. Overall, the cybersecurity ETF CIBR here is flat for the year, and the rebound in Zscaler may just be a relief rally from its 23% year-to-date sell-off. That said, CrowdStrike has done a very good job managing earnings in the past, with the stock shooting up higher in 3 of the last 4 reports. That doesn't guarantee investors are going to cheer Tuesday's release, but it does speak to CrowdStrike's ability to manage expectations and then beat them with continued growth. I do own shares into the earnings report as a long-term holding for that cybersecurity mega trend and would be buying this best of breed in the space on any dips as well. ChargePoint Holdings, ticker CHPT, could be the surprise of the week when it reports its earnings on Wednesday. EVgo disappointed investors on its outlook, sending the stock lower by 12% on the day, while Blink Charging saw its shares higher on its strong results. ChargePoint has more often than not disappointed investors, though missing expectations in 2 of the last 4 quarters. Against this, that bull case for the larger charging infrastructure is still intact, and this stock trades in deep value territory, which means with expectations extremely low, any good news could send the stock higher. More than a quarter, or 27% of the shares available are sold short, setting up the potential for a short squeeze on any surprise. Now, while the earnings loss for Q1 is only expected to narrow slightly and revenue is forecast expected down 17% from the year-ago period, I'm going to be watching growth in the company's recurring segments area. If it can keep up last quarter's 40% growth in subscription service revenue, it's going to set the company up for solid revenue growth, even as the pace of EV adoption disappoints investors. Shares of Salesforce, ticker CRM, are still up 36% since I first started recommending it as a forever stock in 2022, but plunged 21% Thursday when management warned that a transition period for higher AI spending and softening enterprise customer spending would weigh on its growth for the next 9 to 12 months. Last quarter's single-digit revenue growth was the lowest in the company's post-IPO history, and analysts expect sales to be flat this year. Now, that said, last week's sell-off has made the valuation attractive again at just 6 times revenue, and the company remains a standout leader in its industry. CEO Benioff has continuously proven his ability to grow the company and maintain its competitive advantage over peers, and I'm using the sell-off to pick up more shares. Showing you the bigger picture here with the Sector Spiders sector tracker, despite the apparent weakness in the market index, 8 of the 11 stock sectors did close higher last week. It was only the fact that the stocks in the tech sector, now 30% of the entire market, fell so much that it took the S&P index down with it. That 2.3% loss on tech stocks contributed to a 0.7% of the S&P's loss for the week. So had it not been for tech stocks, the S&P could have actually closed higher. While stocks in the energy sector did rebound more than 2%, they're still down 0.33% over the last month. So this kind of strikes me as more of a rebound rally from oversold conditions. The fundamentals for oil are still slightly negative on the current price, so I wouldn't expect oil stocks to continue to outperform. For a little bit longer trend, the bounce higher in interest rate related sectors like real estate and utilities last week was interesting given that rates really didn't move that much. The rate on the 10-year benchmark treasury bond moved only slightly from 4.46 up to 4.51 during the week. Now that, as expected, if PCE inflation report did help ease some fears that the Fed might have to hike rates to slow inflation, but didn't really do much to boost hopes for a rate cut this year. The market expectations are still for a 50-50 chance on the rate cuts are going to start in September. Still, it does appear that interest rates have peaked, so that might be sparking kind of a relief rally in these interest rate sensitive stocks. So especially in real estate stocks, which are deeply discounted on valuation. Get your free bond and earn a 7% yield with Worthy Bonds and the link in the description. Or get someone started investing by gifting them a bond. Click on the video to the right for the top 5 AI stocks I'm buying right now. Stocks with NVIDIA-like potential in that AI boom. Don't forget to join the Let's Talk Money community by tapping that subscribe button and clicking the bell notification. Hey, Bowtie Nation, Joseph Hogue here, and you know we love us some monthly dividend stocks here on the channel, but sometimes they're like that toxic friend everyone has. You know what I'm talking about. The friend that drops by to give you his used recliner, but then borrows $200 that you will never see again. Monthly stocks pay out some of the highest dividends out there, like 11% on shares of Cross Timbers Royalty, ticker CRT, but then regularly cut their dividend as the stock price goes nowhere but down. CRT has cut its payout more than 20 times in the last 5 years, and the shares are down 51% in the last year alone. That's why I'm digging into my 2 favorite resources for monthly dividends, the REIT Watch and BDC Insights, to help you find those dividend payers that won't let you down. I'll walk you through each report, show you how to analyze monthly dividend stocks, and then highlight the 5 safest payers in each. First up, $59 billion Public Storage, ticker PSA, cashing in on our love for impulse shopping and cluttered garages. The company operates over 3,300 properties and stores the junk, treasured possessions of 2 million customers to pay a 3.5% dividend yield. Now that cash yield might not ring your bell. We will see higher yields in this list, even into the double digits with the BDCs later, but understand there is a trade-off here. With that dividend safety, you expect to collect lower yields, but also that the stock price is going to move higher versus those higher yield stocks that might actually lose money. For example, beyond that 3.5% dividend, shares of Public Storage are up 20% this year. Against other storage REITs, Public Storage has the lowest FFO payout ratio at just 59%, which means it can grow the dividend faster or just keep more back for growth. It is also using the lowest amount of leverage here at just 2.5 times debt to EBITDA. In fact, compared to peers in the space, Public Storage may be a little overly conservative, with 4.5% growth in those funds from operations, the lower dividend yield, and strong fundamentals. I expect we'll see strong dividend growth coming from PSA. We're just getting started in our list of monthly dividend stocks, but if you didn't catch that first episode in the series, be sure to look for the link in the description. In it, I showed you how to find these 2 free reports and the great information you're going to find, along with the 10 highest paying dividend stocks, so make sure you check out that video next. The yield and the fun factor is higher here, with Vici Properties, ticker VICI, with a 5% dividend yield and 93 properties across gaming and experiences, including some of the biggest names in Vegas, like Caesars and the Venetian. The company owns properties in 26 states and all triple net leases, which means the tenants pay all the costs. Vici just collects the rent. The company has grown its dividend payout by 7.9% a year, well above the 2.2% average dividend growth among REITs, and it should have no problem keeping up that growth with these fundamentals. Vici pays out just 61% of its funds from operations as dividends and carries a lower debt burden than competitor GLPI. FFO growth of 3.7% and strong travel trends this year should help support that stock price and the cash yield. I'll show you what measures I'm looking at to find those safest dividends in real estate stocks next, but just like in that first video, just as important is that we pull stocks from different property types as well. It's an important point that most investors miss, because if we're just picking stocks with, let's say, the lowest payout ratios, for example, we might have all of our investments in lodging properties, here with an average 12% payout ratio, and nothing in healthcare or telecom, which tend to have higher payout ratios. But not only does that leave us dangerously exposed to just one or a few property types, and if the economy turned against them, but it ignores the fact that some groups just have higher or lower payout ratios because of their fundamentals. Lodging and resort property cash flows are less stable versus telecom, so naturally